I'm thinking about this feeling thing again, because I keep using this word feeling in relation to different things really. Sometimes I use it in relation to well, things like feeling of knowing or the feeling of being certain. I've used it in that kind of context. The kind of embodied sense which accompanies what are often thought of as purely cognitive operations. But other times I've used it in relation to kind of emotions, I guess. And yeah, different things like that. So I think I need to unpack some of that stuff for myself, see if I can understand what I'm talking about really. And for me there's three bits to it, or at least at the moment there's three. I think it'll probably break down slightly differently. One is a distinction between I guess kind of sensory awareness as opposed to affective awareness. Sensory feeling as opposed to affective feeling. And then there's something else to do with something approaching intuition, I guess. Again, it's a word I'm not terribly comfortable about using. Come on, pups. But I will do. So let's just start with that first one, sensory awareness as opposed to affective awareness. Because I think they're different. They might not be different in kind, they might just be different in quantity, but they feel different in kind. Sensory awareness, the way I'm using it, is when you are sensorially aware of something. That's pretty obvious, isn't it, really? But you know, I'm looking at my eyes right now, and my eyes are looking at my face, or however you want to put it, and I am sensorially aware of this, you know, these tree things that I'm walking through. I am aware of the greenness of that leaf. I'm aware of the brownness of the kind of litter on the ground underneath, you know, the tree litter on the ground. I've got auditory awareness. I'm aware of the sound of that bird singing. So this is all a felt, you know, this is all a felt sense. It's not, yeah, it's felt. You know what I mean? Or in a most literal way, you know, I can run my hands over this branch here and feel it. You know what I mean? I can feel its texture. I can feel its how hard it is, how resilient it is, how resistant it is to moving and bending. So it's a sensory awareness of that stuff. But alongside that, we also have apparently this affective sense. And affective means an evaluative component. So not only might I feel this branch, but if it's got like sharp bits on it, I might feel that branch as pain. Or alternatively, if I you know, there might be some pleasurable equivalent to that. You know, I might run my hand through someone's hair, and I'm not just aware of the sensory feel of the hair passing over my fingertips. I'm also aware that it's a pleasurable sensation. So it's got a valency to it, a positive valency to it, and that's its affective component. But I do think they're quite different. I mean, maybe they are different, I don't know. Maybe they are really different in some kind of cognitive processing way. But I do find myself often linking them, often confusing them. Sensory feel and the affective feel. I think I'm probably right in saying that certainly some theorists, I guess I'm thinking about Antonio Damasio here, but probably also Joseph Ledoux, neurologists, they would not make that distinction, I don't think. Certainly Damasio talks about what he calls somatic markers, which is that every sensation we have, you know, every bit of data that flies in through our eyes or in through our ears or in through our fingertips, in addition to being cognitively processed by, you know, the higher centers of the brain in the frontal lobes and the temporal lobes, it also takes a loop through the limbic system, the older kind of reptilian bit of the brain, where it's marked, and through the hippocampus, I think, where it's kind of marked positively or negatively. It's given a marks out of 10 kind of thing. So even something as simple as my looking at this leaf, according to this somatic marker hypothesis, even though it's just sensory awareness, there will be some kind of affective thing going on there. It might be very, very slight, a very slight sensation of positivity, or a slight measure of negativity, forming a kind of pattern and a great tabulated framework of slight positives and negatives. You know, almost like a magnetic field being played out in the across the senses while you look around and while you listen to things and while you hear things, which is just modulating that sensory field. So it's also has this, you know, quite mild affective component. It might be so mild you don't even notice it. Just being alive and awake, that's it, you know. Even though you don't feel anything, you're not, you know, being buffeted by grand emotions and having your fingers torn apart by thorns, or, you know, be having constant orgasms through some kind of weird sensation of pleasure. Even though that's not happening, just the background hum of being alive and awake, according to this at least, according to Damasio, is this, you know, is this little play of positive and negative valencies that's going on all the time with our sensory awareness. That feeling of being alive, the feeling of what happens, actually is what he calls it. The feeling of what happens. Didn't really get onto intuition, did I? Never mind, I'll leave it there. I suppose all I'm saying is is this feeling thing may be broken down into two components, a sensory component and an affective component, in which the sensory component is just, you know, the things you see, the things you hear, the things you feel. The affective component being the way you feel about the things you see, the way you feel about the things you hear, and the way you feel about the things you feel, with there being no zero quantity to that, but we're constantly living in the background hum of this subtly modulating magnetic field of affection, maybe.